All right, everybody's filing in here. Hello and welcome everybody. My name is Andrew Kraus. I'm one of the co-founders here at IGA. Let's get this party started. So give me a second. Let me pull up a slide here. These are our experts today. So my name is Andrew Kraus. I'm one of the co-founders here at Inventor Groups of America. Let me make sure, Stephen, does it say it's recording here? I think it does.
It does.
Yep, cool. All right, good. You got to make that's important. A lot of people are going to be watching this replay, but you guys are going to be able to ask questions of the speakers, and these other people who watch the replay aren't. So make sure to do that, okay, guys? I'm one of the co-founders here at Inventor Groups of America. We have a great meeting for you today with 4 experts that are going to show you how to fight the fakes. I love that. That sounds great. I think you guys are going to be blown away with the advice and experiences shared with you here today. Before we get going, type your name into the chat. And if you're new here, say I'm new. Also, for everyone, we'd love to hear what your name is and what your state or country you're from. We have people that attend from all over the world. So go on right over now to the chat, or it's at the bottom of your screen, and let us know. IGA was founded by Stephen Key and myself. You're going to see him in just a minute to teach individuals how to best commercialize their product ideas, as well as strengthen and support inventor groups throughout the nation. As many of you know, Stephen Key and myself also run inventRight at inventright.com, where we coach and mentor inventors to license their products. Everything we do here at IGA is free. Yes, I said free. IGA also has a directory of local and regional inventor groups on our website. So if you're located near one, we highly encourage you to join. Actually, one of our speakers was running one of those groups in Orange County not that long ago. Please do not disclose anything that is confidential and is not already publicly available. This meeting is being recorded and will be harnessed on our website and our YouTube channel soon. If you have any questions for us, please type them into the chat as they come to you. We'll be doing Q&A at the end and maybe during as well. We have 4 amazing speakers today who are going to show you how to fight the fakes. Let's take a look at their bios and then we'll go ahead and get going here. All right, so our first expert is Brendan Kutcher. Brendan Kutcher is the inventor of the Amazon bestseller Jug Plug. Through tackling obstacles such as market competition and copycats, Brendan navigated the complexities of bringing his idea to market with determination and a practical approach to problem solving. His story is filled with lessons on product development, business strategy, and the grit it just takes to turn ideas into success. Kevin Prince is our next expert. He is a patent agent and inventor and the founder of the Inventor Forum Group in Orange County. See, I told you we have a gentleman that started an inventor group down there. He graduated from the University of California, Berkeley with a degree in engineering. As the founder of QuickPatents and a longtime friend of IGA, Inventor Groups of America, he's been a reliable, prompt, and affordable and supportive service provider. Kevin specializes in utility and design patents for independent inventors and small business leaders. Mario Simonian is a seasoned attorney and entrepreneur and the founder and CEO of ESQ Go PC, a pioneering virtual law firm specializing in Amazon and Walmart law. That's fascinating. Intellectual property enforcement and e-payment law. With a deep understanding of e-commerce and the legal challenges sellers face, Mario has built a reputation as a trusted advocate for online entrepreneurs. His firm has helped thousands of Amazon and Walmart sellers recover millions in funds, reinstate their accounts, and protect their IP from infringement. Our last and expert here today is Daniel Shapiro. He is the Senior Vice President of Brand Relationships and Strategic Partnerships at Redpoints. Drawing on extensive experience at Macy's and eBay, Daniel offers a well-rounded perspective on brand protection and strategic growth. Daniel's understanding of brand security and complexities of digital commerce fuels his work in building impactful partnerships and helping businesses protect their online presence. So now I'm going to go ahead and exit out of this and introduce you to our other co-founder, Stephen Key, who's going to get this party started. All right.
All right. Thank you very much, Andrew. And I want to welcome everybody to IGA again. I want to start out by first mentioning that when you first come up with an idea, you're spending a lot of time on it. and you're probably probably doing all the marketing, you're doing all the protection, you're doing everything. Maybe you've got your inventory, but you're really putting a lot of work into this. And next thing you know, you decide to sell online because there's a lot of great platforms to sell online. Or even maybe your licensee that you license it is selling online. But what happens, and I think we all get very frustrated, is that you do all this work, and the next thing you know, you have this product that's doing well. And you notice that the copycats are coming, the knockoffs, the infringers. And you're saying, hey, wait a minute, what's going on here? How do I stop them? And you become very quickly, you're becoming very frustrated, and you really don't know what to do. And I can tell you, when someone takes your idea and they're making money from it, it's really kind of overwhelming. I know it. It feels like it's a violation, and you feel like you're at a point. What do I do? So that's what we're going to talk about today is, how to fight the fakes, how to stop them online. So the first question I have, and I'll start with you both, Daniel and Mario too. Daniel, how big a problem is this? Is it just me? Is it just me, or is it companies too that are dealing with this problem?
You need to unmute yourself, Daniel.
Got it. Hi, thanks, Stephen. The problem is significant, and I thought maybe to answer that question, I would do, if it's okay with everybody here, I'll give you just a quick setup in terms of how I think about the size and scope of the challenge, and therefore, the process in which you might start thinking about from a strategy perspective on how you go about solving it. So to give you a sense, in the last 10, well, in the previous 10 years, from 2010 to 2020, 2010, about 5% of the business happened online. By 2020, 44% of the business happened online. It's growing incrementally and at a high rate and a high speed. And so today, when we think of global e-commerce, today in 2024, it's estimated that global e-commerce, that is things bought online, crossed over $6 trillion for the first time. It happened in 2024. Estimated by 2028, somewhere around $8 trillion will take place on the e-commerce platforms. And so what does that mean? Well, in the US alone, we're talking about $1.2 trillion ending 2024 happened online. And when I think about Amazon, I work very closely with, like Mario, I work very closely with the folks at Amazon, eBay, Alibaba, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, etc. Today, Amazon estimates about 310 million unique sellers are on their platform, or buyers, excuse me. That's about 4.9 billion listings currently for sale on Amazon.com. And when I say Amazon.com, I mean Amazon.com.uk.de for Germany. 4.9 billion unique listings. I came from eBay, spent 8 years at eBay before joining Redpoints. Today, eBay is sitting at about 2.1 billion unique listings on ebay.com. Again, that's ebay.com.uk.de, etc. And they have about approximately 133 million active buyers, people who are buying products. And I'll share with you, I was at a conference not too long ago with the guy who heads up all things brand protection for Alibaba. And he shared that the Alibaba e-commerce structure, and they own many marketplaces. Some of you know Alibaba or AliExpress. There's other sites called Lazada, Taobao, 1688, Tmall, etc. That infrastructure of marketplaces, Alibaba is adding 1 billion new listings a day that weren't listed yesterday. So what does that mean for inventors? And
Can you say that? Can you say that number again? Say that, please. I could tell everybody's doing a double take there.
Yeah, it's unfathomable, but it's true. Alibaba is adding to the global platform. That's all of their marketplaces, not one particular marketplace, but that structure. About 1 billion items a day. I can tell you through sort of a quiet conversation, Amazon is nearly 1 billion items a day as well. So what does that mean for when we think of kinds of listings that are out there? It means that somewhere between 2 and 4 billion items will be listed tomorrow that weren't visible for us today. And the reason I bring that up is when we think about fighting fakes, which is, of course, the topic of our conversation today. How do you fight something where tomorrow there's another 2 to 4 billion items a day? So I share with you that I think long gone are the days of trying to do this with human capital. And today, without the deploying some level of technology, it just can't be done. I always think about this when I'm training people in the world of anti-counterfeiting, but I think about this. If we had President's Weekend, we had for our company, at least in the US, we had Monday off. If you think anybody might have started on a day early, like taking Friday off, so you had a 4-day weekend, you realize that if you come in on Tuesday morning and you're a brand owner or an inventor, like all of you folks on the phone, that you're somewhere behind, somewhere between, 8 and 16 billion items behind in your search to see if anybody's copied you. And so that we're all on the same page. You can't go through 1 billion and you certainly can't go through 2 billion, 12 billion. Doesn't make any sense. So I share that with you just to give you a size of what's out there and what the challenge is. Okay.
Well, wait a minute. Now, this sounds horrible. It sounds great because there's probably a lot of people that want your product. But Mario, I've got a question for you. Do the online platforms really care about the fakes when it's just, it benefits them just to have more people on there all the time? I mean, do they even care?
Yeah, great question. I do think they care, right? I do think they care. I think the better question is, do they care enough, right? I think that's the better question. So Amazon will come out with an annual report. This is how many millions or hundreds of millions we spent on sort of fighting fakes and counterfeits, right? But how much of that money was allocated towards fighting for fakes or copies for branded product or any other inventor? They look at it at a global, from a global level, right? And what that means is, if you're the Nikes of the world or the Pumas of the world that has direct contact into Amazon and can go to Amazon and maybe say, this is how much money we're investing in marketing, like where's the help, right? We're seeing all these fakes, then they're probably getting help. But for the normal sort of inventor and sort of solopreneur or the mom and pop shop, I don't think they're directly getting help from Amazon, or at least I still haven't seen it in my 12 years of dealing with these online marketplaces.
And Mario, maybe if I could add on to that, because I think that's a really positive statement. One of the interesting thought processes that we don't always think about it is we want, or we'd hope that those platforms would assist us and help us. On the flip side, I'm going to show you a case example of a product by a cool invented product by one of our customers that until I saw that the guy did business with, I wouldn't have known was a real item. In other words, if some guy was selling that out of China, I would have assumed that it's not a real brand or it's someone doing it. And all these people who work at Amazon, unless they've ever seen that brand somewhere, they've come across it in a store, they found an online website. The question is, how could they help you if they didn't actually know it existed? And I'll share one other, just a quick story, but you mentioned Nike. So Nike today has an inventory of about 2.5 million SKUs. It's a pretty hefty inventory of different products. There are very few people in there are very few people in Nike who know all 2.5 million SKUs. So if a t-shirt showed up in, bright pink on the website with a swoosh for $9.99, we'd say, well, it's probably fake, it's pink, But what if it was from fall of 2021? It's been sitting around for 4 years, been marked down 100 times, and they actually did make pink back one time in fall, and no one really bought it. The question is, who in Nike knows about that color that was produced at that time? Maybe they've left the company. No one really knows if they built pink, right? And then who at the platforms know whether or not pink was a legitimate color once upon a time on a Nike shirt, right? So there are some very unique challenges. And I shared that size and scale of e-commerce to say, I think as an inventor, there's a lot of opportunity to sell stuff online. I mean, that's really, The upside is there's room for everybody to sell stuff. There is
Sure.
also, by the way, room for bad actors to take advantage of everybody because that e-commerce world is so big, and you can hide in plain sight.
Okay.
So
Okay.
then just to sort of finish my thought, you bring up a good point. Sort of, if Amazon or any marketplace doesn't know about it, how can they enforce it? So that's a separate issue. But what I'm more particularly talking about is through Amazon Brand Registry, since Amazon really is the largest marketplace that we're talking about, right?
Okay.
But through Amazon Brand Registry, they do have algorithms that'll go through and sort of remove the products that may be clearly infringing your trademark, right? But we've also seen issues with clients coming to our law firm where it's, hey, here's the design patent that I have, and here are all the infringers. I'm filing the complaint, so I am notifying Amazon, but Amazon's not doing anything, right? Or the other question is, we'll go ahead and get them taken down. Amazon will take them down, but in 2 weeks they're back up, whether it's on their own account or one of the many accounts that you mentioned are created, right? So those are the problems that we're seeing, and that's why, to answer your question, Stephen, yeah, they are helping. I do think they do care. But question is, how much do they care about our particular?
It seems pretty hard, just given the volume, for anybody to care too much.
Of course. And
So-
Dan did a great job of providing some stats. One stat that always stuck with me is in 2019, there was a congressional study, and they realized that 2.5% of all worldwide retail sort of value is fakes. So 2.5% of world economy goods are fakes.
Okay. So what you're saying to what I just understood is that this is a problem for everybody that sells online. I don't care if you're Nike. I don't care if you're Brendan. It's a problem for everybody. Is that correct?
Yeah, and I think
Okay.
and I think Mario brings up a really good challenge. I think that number is relatively accurate, in terms of the estimated size of counterfeiting, right? So think about in the world that we just talked about, when I mentioned 2 platforms by themselves, 4.9 billion listings on sale at Amazon, 2.1 there. If we extrapolate it across standalone websites, social e-commerce, social, marketplaces, etc., we're looking for needles in a haystack. In other words, someone is probably taking advantage of you online. The question is, can we find it? Can Amazon find it? And or eBay or TikTok, doesn't really matter. But there has to be this sort of what I would say sort of cooperation or collaboration between brands, between providers such as myself, between law enforcement, between attorneys like Mario. If we don't sort of like pool our, processes together, it becomes a harder fight.
Yeah.
Well, another question I have is, it seems like this is changing quite rapidly. I mean, from 6 months ago to, a year ago to 6 months to now, is that landscape changing constantly? Of just the issues and the problem. Purely for size growth, it's changing. So that's making it more complicated, but it seems like Amazon has different policies one year and it changes the next. Is that kind of a moving target as well?
So Amazon is always changing their policies, and some of them I think are beneficial changes, and some of them may not make sense, right? So that is nothing new. Change is definitely constant. I think the major change that we've seen is sort of going from brick and mortar infringers to now everyone online. But I don't think that's happened in the last year or so. It happened since Amazon got popular. I think it's always been a cat and mouse game, right? Whatever new strategy we have, the infringers will look to sort of come up with a different method, and we got to build a better mousetrap.
Yeah, I think that's what I was going to say, Mario, to your question, is that the speed of e-commerce is lightning. The speed of scamming is lightning pace. Just a few months ago, I did a conversation with some folks from the American Apparel Footwear Association, and one of the scams that was taking place at that time was there would be ads that were available on social media, and you'd click on it on your desktop, and it would be like, I don't know, silk flowers and trees, but it said it's 50 off Nike, right? But you don't see Nike, you see flowers and trees. You open up that same website on your phone and it goes to a website full of fake Nikes at 50 off, right? The desktop version is completely different than the mobile phone version, because that's a cool scam. Now that scam we sort of broke down. A lot of people attacked it, but there's some really cool challenges taking place now, just a few months later, because of the circumvention and the technique. And so I think maybe, Stephen, to your original question, which is, are some of the rules changing? They have to change because the circumvention techniques used by bad actors change so fast that they hadn't thought that that was something they needed to regulate or policy, right? It didn't exist 6 months ago.
It seems like the people that are going to copy you or scam you are pretty clever and
Really
the way
smart
to do it. And every time we try to stop them, they come up with something else that's even more brilliant. Hey, Mario, let's jump ahead and talk about, now that we know it's a pretty big problem and it's hard. What do you do? What does your company do to fight that problem?
Sure. So if a client came to us, let's say 2 years ago or 3 years ago and said, hey, here's a problem. This is my product and I've got a bunch of infringers. Me and almost any law firm would say, do you have $500,000 retainer? Right. And obviously most 99% of inventors can't afford that. What we've done in the last 2.5 years is sort of flip that on its head and said, you know what, we could actually go after these infringers and sort of freeze their assets. That way we permanently remove these infringers. We get them to sign a settlement agreement saying that they're not going to infringe again, and also remove their listing. So it's a great benefit for the client because now they can afford it because it's zero out of their pocket, and a great motivator for firms like ours. So that's what we've done. But previously it was sending cease and desist letters to anyone outside the United States. They would just throw it away. There's nothing they're going to do with it, right? And sometimes going to Amazon would help, and sometimes it wouldn't. We would have to escalate through Amazon's legal departments and through Amazon's law firm, DWT. But even though sometimes it was like, okay, maybe we got them removed, great job, but 3 months later they may be back. But with this process, seems to be working a lot better, and I think very beneficial for the client and obviously for us too, because it really puts us all in the same boat and everyone's interests are completely aligned. So that's what we're doing nowadays, and I'll get more into it once I present the slides. But that's a 30,000 foot view.
Okay, Daniel, you guys do it a little differently. How do you do it? Are you muted again?
Got it. Thank you. So we're a technology provider for which brands hire us to do that monitoring of all those marketplaces or social media sites or standalone websites. And so, matter of fact, I just about to hit next week, I'll be with the company 7 years. And when I joined 7 years ago, there were about, I think I was employee 70. And today we're a little over 300. When I joined 7 years ago, we had about 130 brands using Redpoints. Today, we're a little over 1,300 brands using Redpoints. Okay. And today, we deploy a technology that allows us to monitor those marketplaces every day of the week, no matter whether it's President's Day weekend or not. We bring in those listings on behalf of our clients. We use AI for good, and that is we're using all sorts of pieces of AI to make determinations and decision products that are inside our funnel, decision those products as to whether or not they're okay to let go, they're authentic or not relevant, which ones tend to be really pressing and likely counterfeit, and those that we need a sort of a second eye on. But we do that automatically. And today, our company, on behalf of those 1,300 brands that we represent, we're sending around 400 to 500,000 takedowns monthly on behalf of our clients. And we're doing this in the US, Europe, Korea, India, Africa, Middle East, Latin America, all over the place.
Let's talk about some of the tools that, as inventors and entrepreneurs, that we're going to need. Right. So let's start with you, Mario. What are the typical tools that help you, that you're going to need to stop some of these fakes?
So as far as tools, software, when we started this process, we talked to other law firms and realized that they're using Excel spreadsheets to keep track of infringers and gather data. And we're like, okay, this isn't going to work, right? So we actually had to build out our own proprietary software, and that's what we use to find infringers, to collect data, find out who they are, what their address is, what their merchant ID or sort of marketplace ID is. That's what we use. But as far as tools, I think it's as simple as get your trademarks as soon as you can, get your copyrights, get your patents, and go to someone that knows what they're doing. Kevin and I have worked together for quite a while now, and his patents are ones that we receive. We're like, okay, these are good. We can do something with it. But Kevin will tell you too, not all patents are created equal. Not all trademarks and copyrights are created equal. So don't go to your sort of LegalZoom or online service provider. Go to someone that knows what they're doing. But that's where I would start. That's where the foundation starts, is with your IP. Get your IP portfolio in order. As far as other software to monitor, part of it is just sort of knowing your product, number one. Number two, knowing how your customer behaves. That's really what I would look at, right? Where is your customer going for shopping? If they're going for example, Temu, then you need to make sure that you're also monitoring that. But knowing your client behavior, but most of all, getting your IP down.
Daniel, question for you. Why is copyright important? And he said patents, but or patents or design patents? Which ones do you prefer?
Well, I'll answer that. If I may just piggyback on Mario and say that, I think with inventors, I've worked with the USPTO before, and I think sometimes when inventors are coming up with this great entrepreneurial stuff, they may not envision one day selling it in Latin America or in Korea or in India, but those are protection. They're not only offensive ideas in case you choose to sell there, you're already covered, but they're defensive in case someone starts to counterfeit you. Because if we find your product in Korea being counterfeited, but you've never filed a trademark there, it's impossible to take it down because it's actually not counterfeit, right? So that's one thing I would just add to the trademarks that Mario mentioned that are really critical, thinking global, because today, I think the value proposition of e-commerce is that you could envision a customer from, Korea. You could envision a customer from Japan. And so the world allows us to do that. But as Stephen, to your question about copyrights are really, really critical. We take down for some very large nutraceutical companies, that is nutritional supplements. They don't, the particular brand, two brands I'm thinking of, don't particularly have a counterfeit issue, but they have a lot of people who aren't authorized to use their images without their consent. And we take down tens of thousands of images on a marketplace because those photos belong to that brand. They haven't authorized anybody to use those photos. And so we take those photos down. And about 52% of the people who were listing those products disappear. The other 48% may relist, but they'll take a picture of that product on their bed or their kitchen counter. And I can tell you that disrupts their sales because we all get nervous about buying something we're going to, digest, but it's on someone's bed. We feel like there's cooties there. And so it clobbers their sales. So by taking down those really authentic and very expensive pictures that you've hired someone to do for your business, it is a great defense, and sometimes a first line of defense for helping inventors protect their product.
But let's say I'm on a limited budget here, you guys, because you scared me a little bit here.
I hope not.
Right? Because you just said, I'm going to need a trademark basically everywhere. Or maybe I do, maybe I don't. Maybe it's the United States enough. But
yeah,
do I need protection of all those tools everywhere? Or should I just kind of look at the countries that are going to probably purchase my product?
Can I jump in and sort of take a stab at that question, and Daniel, you could follow up too. So obviously, in a perfect world, we would do what Daniel said, right? And if we've gotten sort of a large budget, we would try to get a trademark and patent sort of everywhere, right? My thing is, and I used to be an Amazon seller too, right? I've built and sold 2 brands. My thing is, start with wherever you're selling. So here we're in the US, get it here, right? Because at the end of the day, whenever we're launching and starting a new business, it's sort of like you're counting your pennies, you're counting your dollars. So get it over here. But understand what Daniel said, that's a great point. If you're manufacturing in China, maybe you need to get your trademark next as a next step. So have that plan in place. But I don't think it's very reasonable or realistic for us to go out and get a trademark and patent everywhere across the world. That's number one. Number two, going back to the copyright thing. So copyrights, I think, can be very powerful, right? Because it's super easy to get very, very quick. However, in our experience, what we've seen, the more sophisticated infringers, what they'll do is file a DMCA counter notice. Then you're sort of at a position where you're playing chicken with them and saying, okay, they just filed DMCA counter notice. Amazon is going to put their image or their product back online if I don't file a lawsuit. So it's the more sophisticated infringers will play chicken with you and sort of puts our clients or any person filing that complaint, that copyright complaint, in a bit of an awkward position.
Daniel, I love patents, by the way, okay? And I'm actually loving design patents a little bit more these days because it seems like they're easier to stop the online fakes because you can actually see it. Where a patent, you might have to read it, you might have to try to understand it, where a design patent's going to say, hey, this looks like this looks like this. Yeah, we have a problem. Is that true?
Yeah, and I think more and more marketplaces, not just domestically here in the US, but globally, are accepting design patents as a legitimate takedown. It used to be there were very few that would do it. The old company I worked for, eBay, they're probably one of the last few guys that are not accepted. I mean, they're just so rigid. But most marketplaces and social media platforms are accepting design patents, and so although not as expensive as a utility patent, but obviously costs money, but they are a very successful tool to use. I think it's a great tool if it works in the budget for sure.
Well, fantastic. Now, Kevin, you're up. All right. Design patents. Let's talk about them. They're more affordable than filing for a utility. We know that. And let's talk about when should I file one? How fast can I get it issued? Because it seems like that's going to be a great tool for me.
Yeah, well, it might be. It might be appropriate for your product. It might not be. Generally speaking, when people are talking about patents, what they are talking about are utility patents. You know, that's what most people mean when they say, oh, I've patented my product.
Yep.
Now, a utility patent protects the way something works. You know, it's theory of operation. And so you're right. Unless Amazon, you know, people in the compliance department or whatever know how to read claims, which is a little bit tricky at first, it might be difficult to know if this product is infringing this one. So design patents, on the other hand, protect the way something looks. So I can show a slide here of an example that I use. A design patent would protect like this image up here on the left, which is a pair of spectacles. And you can see that has a very unique look, right? But it works the same way as every other pair of spectacles. So there's nothing unique about how it works. You would not be able to get a utility patent on that. But you can certainly get a design patent on that ornamental appearance. Now compare that with this image here, which is an image of the polarized lens patent. If you have polarized lenses and that's what you're trying to protect, you know, you don't care what the competitor's product looks like in that case. You want to, if they're using polarized lenses, you want to be able to go after them. So for that, you would absolutely need a utility patent.
Okay.
And they're not mutually exclusive. I've gotten both utility and design patents for the same thing. They just protect different aspects of it.
Well, they sound, yeah, okay. I think what's interesting about it, I think most people are going to file a utility, but sometimes they don't file the design.
Yes.
But I think in combination, it's a good combination to have. Is that correct?
Yeah. And I think design patents are underutilized. They're about 1/8 of the cost of the utility patent. They go through the patent office about 95% of the time unscathed. I mean, there's very rarely do we have prior art rejections.
Okay.
They go through more quickly. So it's a year to a year and a half, as opposed to a year and a half to 3 years. And just like with a utility patent, you can also speed up a design patent. So on the design patent side at the USPTO, it's called their Rocket Docket program. And if you pay the extra $1,050 or whatever it is to the government, they'll try to get to it within 6 months as opposed to a year to a year and a half. And that can be important if you've got 50, infringers on Amazon, because every day you're losing money. And
So I really need to get this out there way before I'm ever going to be selling online. Is that a smart move?
Well, so a couple things. The big rule is file your patents that you're going to file before you publicly disclose the product. Because if you don't do that, you're going to lose your foreign filing rights in most countries. So if you just remember nothing else, just remember, I have to keep this a secret until I file my utility patent, my design patent, or both.
Okay.
Then you have a certain period of time to file your foreign patents. Now, you don't have to file foreign patents, but if you have that option open and your product's a big hit, you might be really happy that you kept that option open for foreign patents.
Got it. Okay.
Just to make
Fair
a
enough.
general statement as far as what's been shared so far, if you had to go in order of expense, the cheapest is a copyright, next is trademark, next is design patent, next is utility patent. And ease of enforcement, I think copyright very clear quite often, and trademark very, very clear. I mean, in the fashion business, they can't really protect their new clothing designs, but if it says Calvin Klein, ooh, that's knocking it off, right? So copyright, trademark, design patent, utility as far as costs go.
Yeah. Let's give a real case experience situation here. Brandon, where are you? I see you.
I'm here. Can you hear me?
Yeah, how are you?
Good, good, good.
Now, we first met because you said you had a problem and Mario helped you and Kevin helped you. Could you tell your story a little bit about how it all started and what your product is?
Yeah, so it's the jug plug, the water jug cap right there. Yeah, so I started selling it. Well, I came up with the idea, I want to say like late 2021, I believe it was. And I started selling it and I it started selling well. I didn't know like how many people were going to
What is
buy it
it, first
originally.
of all? What does it do?
It caps the water jug. So the issue that I was having was I was getting the water jugs delivered to my house, and then I found out that I can just fill them myself at the local, Walmart or whatever for, a quarter of the price that they were charging me. I went online to go look for the caps, and all the ones that I found online weren't really like reusable. So I was already an Amazon seller to begin with, and then I started looking and doing a little bit of research, and I said, okay, let me try a silicone one. Then I talked to a couple of different factories. And then once we got like a design down, I tested it, it worked great. And then I put them online. I didn't really expect to sell that many. I was expecting to sell like maybe 5 a day or something like that. And then I want to say within the first couple of weeks, I sold out of the whole inventory. It was like 1,200 units or something like that. So then that's when I started. I'm like, let me get a design patent because I knew somebody was going to knock it off. I thought it'd be like a couple people, but it ended up being like 1,000.
Wait a minute. Now, Kevin, this is just a plug. How do you get a design patent on that? That sounds pretty simple thing.
Yeah, getting a utility patent would be more challenging.
Yeah, I looked into the utility, and Kevin said that won't happen. But I knew the design patent was good on Amazon because I listened to other podcasts like months before said that, okay, if your design patent looks similar to another product on Amazon, Amazon was just gonna take them down. But again, I found out that wasn't the case either.
Yeah.
Well, first of all, how did you find Kevin? Is he a neighbor of yours or what?
I Googled a bunch of patent attorneys and I talked to a couple, and then I think there was like something where I can schedule a call with Kevin.
Okay.
And then I scheduled the call, and then we talked about it, and I said, just let's go, let's get moving. So we started filing it.
Okay. All right. So you got this idea, it's a hit, you start selling it, everything goes wild, and you realize, holy cow, I'm getting knocked off. When do you call Mario and how do you find him?
Oh, so I got knocked off a couple months into selling it. And again, I'm like, I kept on raising the price of the product to, I think I started at $12 and then I went to 15 and 16, 17, 18. I had them at $20 a piece. And so, and I'm selling over 100 a day or whatever. And it was, I'm making all kinds of money. And then next thing you know, one copycat pops up and then some more pop up. And then within like, let's say I want to say around May or something, there was like 500 or so. And at that point, I'm just waiting to get the patent. I'm selling the product, and like, I talk to Kevin every, couple weeks or a month or two to see what's going on with it. And there's no updates. And then I want to say February 23, I get the patent. And then from my understanding at the time, I can just go to Amazon brand registry and just open up a case and provide the ASINs of the copycats, and then they're going to remove them. And within 15 minutes of sending the email to brand registry, I already got a response back from Amazon. They denied me. And then I'm just like, man, like it was just, I was just furious at that point. It was rough because I waited so long to get the patent, and I thought I could like at least get some of these people removed so I can start getting my sales back. But they didn't really do anything. And then I started calling a bunch of different attorneys just to kind of see what it was. And I think I talked to a couple people like, yeah, we can. They told me that they can get the people, the infringers removed. Um, but it was like a monthly fee involved with it. It was like $1,000, and then like they do something like monitor it for 3 months at like $500 a month or something.
Okay.
So I just kept calling around. I talked to somehow came across Mario. I talked to somebody there, and he's like, "Yeah, Mario would like to talk to you as soon as possible." And then I think like that day we talked. And I said, "Hopefully this works," because I didn't really, see any other option.
So Mario, he calls you, what do you tell him?
Well, explain the process, right? And I think I still remember our conversation. It's a bit of sort of like, what are you saying? Like, it sounds too good. Like, I'm not going to pay anything, and we're going to remove these people.
Yeah, right.
To pay us, right? So it was a bit of that. And I was like, you know what? Let's just take it one step at a time. Explain the process, and then obviously sign it, and we got to work, right? And his was a particular case because there was really widespread infringement, and it was very easy to see just from the listings itself. This is an infringing product, a knockoff, right? But it was very easy to see that it's widespread. It was on Amazon, it was on Walmart, it was on eBay, Temu, and I think even Alibaba, AliExpress.
Yep.
It really spread like wildfire. So we had to get to work, and then I think within 3 or 4 months, we already had the lawsuit filed when we were in negotiations with several of the majority of the infringers. So within, I want to say 3-4 months, we were out to work, and we were getting settlements and getting the listings of the infringers taken down.
Mario, I wanted to bring that up. I mean, is it possible for a smaller inventor like Brendan to turn a negative situation into a profit-making situation, turn a negative thing into a positive thing with settlements? Is that possible? Can you talk about that? What's practical, if you know what I mean?
Just to make sure I understand what you mean, are you talking about like, can we enforce the patent or IP and have the infringers pay a settlement?
Yes.
Yeah, it's definitely possible, and that's what's happened in Brandon's case, and
Right.
dozens and dozens of our other clients that have used the service. It's definitely possible. And once I get into my slideshows, I'll sort of discuss the whole process and ask any questions. I've been seeing several people asking questions about the process and explaining in detail. It's coming up, I promise, so we could get into that. But Stephen, is that enough, or do you want me to actually get
Let's,
to?
let's do this. I want to get into that a little bit more details, but I want to jump over to Daniel for a minute too.
Sure.
Daniel, talk about a typical case that you see. What do you guys do?
Well, people hire us too for different sorts of challenges. Sometimes
Okay.
it's about marketplaces, sometimes it's strictly social media challenges, and sometimes, more often, it's about standalone website and impersonation challenges, right? Because it can come in all flavors. There are people that hire us for all of those things. And there are people that hire us geographically just for the US. Some people hire us for, global or Latin America or wherever. So it can take on sort of different challenges, but what we try to do is understand, sort of what the challenge is. And for us, um, what we use with our technology is we search those marketplaces and find, thousands and thousands of listings, and we try to use the understanding of what authentic looks like and what counterfeit looks like, because our speed to sort of detection to enforcement is critical for our customers, right? And that we identify it, send it, and take it down. And part of my role is I work quite closely with some senior level folks at Amazon, Alibaba, Facebook, or Meta, I should say today. And so we expedite the takedowns so that people can get a result that is a takedown result from that, so that the doesn't interfere. And that is some of the approach we take. I was thinking about when Brendan was talking about that challenge. We had a customer not too long ago who was in the toy business, teething toy business and they were a 5-star seller, sold all their stuff on Amazon. And I spoke at a conference, and I didn't meet him, but I spoke at a conference with this toy area. And all of a sudden I get a call from this guy. He said, I think I might have a counterfeit problem, because we saw our 5-star rating go to 4.5, go to 4, go to 3.5. My CEO assumed, because some of the reviews were saying the product was crappy, and it's a toy for babies, and so it has to meet a lot of criteria. So he brought over the manufacturer, made them immediately ship over samples so they could test it, and everything looked perfect. And so he called me and says, do you think I have a counterfeit problem? So I read some of the reviews, and I said, yeah, unfortunately you do. So they hired us. We took down in the first, I don't know, maybe 4 or 5 months with them across the globe. Like Brendan mentioned, it had gone way past Amazon. It was on Alibaba and all sorts of sites. I think we took down maybe 6,000, 7,000 listings for that particular teething toy. And in a period of time, we had really solved his negative reviews on Amazon and some of these other platforms. About a year later, he calls me up, says, hey, Daniel, you think you could use your leverage with these platforms to put my star ratings back up to 5? Because it's a slow go. I'm at 3.5. I'm now on the 3rd page. I'm no longer on page 1, and it's eaten into my sales. And I said, it's one of the things they don't mess with, right? You got to sell your way back into that space. And so I think about Brendan's story because it's so typical in what we see as people who invent such a cool product and start to get counterfeited. Obviously, Brendan, because of his experience, knew to recognize it quicker, but some people recognize it too late and they lose that page 1 status. They start to have all these negative reviews, and it can be, you can fix the problem, but it's not so easy to get back on page 1, and that's a challenge.
Okay. Yeah, so you're telling me that those knockoffs can actually hurt once you get them off, and if the product's inferior, bad reviews, it's going to really hurt your brand.
And in the case of this teething toy, you had lawsuits because they injured some kids or turned their face blue because the paint came off or whatever. So you have consumer risk, you have brand reputation risk, and of course, what Brendan mentioned, you have sales risk.
Daniel, is there any responsibility when that happens on Amazon?
Yeah, well, I testified to the United States Senate a year ago, October, on the Safe Shop Act. And I was asked to testify on that bill that the U.S. Congress and U.S. Senate is trying to push through, which would hold Amazon, eBay, Walmart, etc., responsible when safety concerns happen. Identifying what safety could mean is sometimes challenging. I'll share maybe just a quick story, but I was at a conference again with a guy from a big denim company, famous denim company, and they happen to do a lot of in factory raids of denim. They did this one particular raid in India of denim that they found counterfeit denim, but they noticed the people were blue at their neck and their hands were blue. And so often when they would do these raids and take thousands and thousands and hundreds of thousands of pair of denim, they would clip off their tags and at least they'd donate them to third world countries because it's still a pair of jeans. But because they were blue, they were a little nervous and they had the product tested and there were high levels of mercury in the denim. And mercury is a neurotoxin. It can really do bad stuff to your head. And I said to him after the conference, I said, how long was that out there? Like, were you doing test buys along the way to find this factory? He says about 6 months. So there were shipments of that out there. And I think about, God forbid, someone bought it and put it in their washing machine with their other denims and they just moved mercury to all of your denims.
Okay.
We don't know the health and safety concern of something like that.
Wow.
Before I move over to Mario real quick, Daniel, how important is it to have those relationships with those major online sellers? Because you mentioned that a couple times.
The platforms, you mean?
Yeah.
I think it's critical. And I think, one of the things Mario said at the very beginning, which is, yes, Nike has their own relationship and so does Apple. They don't need me to have a conversation with Amazon, but any mid-size or small-size business, it is very hard, if not impossible, to get a hold of anyone. And so our value proposition for a lot of our customers is, A, I do that for you, or we as a company do that for you because you need a voice. And because I mentioned of our volume today, sending 400,000 to 500,000, the volume we generate on every one of those platforms is probably the top volume they have to get through every day for the volume of notices that we're sending. And so we can be a voice for our customers who need that voice, desperately need that voice.
So Mario, we're back to you. Okay. You said you had some slides you want us to see?
Yeah, and just to answer the question that you answered to that you asked, as far as Amazon being liable or responsible, so Amazon can be sued for certain safety things, but the sellers, third-party sellers, indemnify them. So at the end, whatever bill that Amazon pays is going to come back to the seller and say, hey, I protected you and you're supposed to indemnify me. Here's a bill, right?
Wow.
So there's that. But let me share my screen.
Shame on them for that indemnification clause.
Yeah. All right, can you see my screen?
Yeah.
All right. So this is the Jug Plug. This is Brendan's product that we talked about, and obviously he's got a beautiful story about it. Some of the things that happen behind the scenes we're not gonna get into, but just know that every case is unique and every case always is more complicated than what it may seem, right? But again, we were able to achieve these results. So Brendan came to us with a design patent on a product like this. This is a knockoff that I discussed. And as I mentioned, he had a lot of infringers across several different marketplaces. And we went through, and I know it's over 500 now, but we removed 500 plus infringers, and we did it permanently, meaning these people weren't coming back. Something we see whenever we reported infringers to Amazon for them to remove it is there's a good chance that they're going to come back, whether it's on the same ASIN or they're going to come back under a different seller name. Here, so far, we've seen 0 repeat infringers, and just across all of our cases, we don't see these people coming back. The only repeat infringer we did have was this older lady who didn't understand the agreement that what they had signed and sort of came back and infringed again, and we're dealing with that. But we don't see repeat infringers. Funds recovered, we recovered 6 figures. Obviously, I'm not going to say the exact amount, but enough to say that Brendan and I were very, very happy, right? And the duration for each one of these lawsuits is about 3 to 9 months. Now, these tend to move faster. And around, I want to say the 4th, 5th, maybe even 6th month, we've got about 80-95% of all the infringers, all the defendants that we went after, we've got settlements with them. The ones that won't respond, or they'll sort of ignore our lawsuit, we'll get them in a default judgment motion, meaning if they don't respond, we're going to go to the judge and say, these are the people that haven't responded. We want to take all the money that they have because these are our losses. These are our damages, right? So that's what we would do there. But definitely go ahead and budget 3 to 9 months for the entire case. Now, something else that we'll see is once we go in and file one of these lawsuits, it'll create this big void in the marketplace. So then you have new sellers who aren't going to do their due diligence and are going to be foolish enough to jump in with a similar product, not knowing that someone out there has a patent on it, right? What they're going to do is they're going to go do their research and say, there's a huge demand for these products based on the keyword search or the search term volume, but there's only maybe 3 or 4 sellers selling similar products to this. So they'll come in. So we do see that happening. And that's why there's sometimes a need for second, third, and maybe even fourth and fifth lawsuit, right?
Wow.
And
Okay.
the market and the marketplaces, as I mentioned, Amazon, Walmart, eBay, Temu, and I believe Alibaba and AliExpress is what we also did. So that was a Jug Plug.
And you did that on contingency, Mario?
Yeah, I'll sort of get
Okay,
into
we
that.
had some questions on that. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll sort of get into that here. So this process, we call this the IPX process. Being an IP attorney, I sort of feel like whatever new service we come up with should have its new name. And obviously, guess what? We're going to go ahead and get a trademark on IPX because we should do as we preach, right? So the way the process would work is if a client like Brendan comes to us and says, I've got a lot of infringers, we'll go ahead and get them onboarded. And the first thing we want to do is an IP portfolio analysis. This is where we take a look at the IP and get a real good understanding of what products would be infringing and who wouldn't be infringing and what marketplaces do we need to look at. We just want to gather that data. From there, we're looking at gathering the evidence. So we'll use our software that I mentioned. IP Blue is what we're calling that software. This proprietary software that we built. Not a lot of law firms out there, just a sort of a side note, not a lot of law firms out there building their own software. So definitely proud for that. But we'll go ahead and have our team go out and gather all the evidence. So that's screenshots, knowing who the sellers are, what marketplace they're on, and all of that. And if we need to do test buys, we'll do test buys. From there, we move to filing the lawsuits against these infringers and then collecting royalties. Along with collecting royalties for past infringement, we obviously also want to get them to sign the agreement. But this is what the process is. A couple of things for you guys to know. There's cases that we won't take. So with this process, who we go after are foreign infringers. So anyone that's selling inside the United States, but from a foreign location. So they may be from anywhere in Asia, from Europe, from Australia, from India, right? We can't go after people that are located inside the United States with this service. So that's one thing to keep in mind. Second thing, if you
Why is that, Mario?
just a legal strategy, the way we do it, the arguments we have to make to go ahead and freeze the assets is, hey judge, these people are, for example, in China. If we go ahead and sue them without freezing any of their assets, they're going to run away. They're going to take their money and run away. So we need to freeze their assets. But we can't make that argument if they're here inside the United States. They'll say, go ahead and find them. They're in the United States. What are they going to do, right? So that's why we do it. Now, the assets that they would have, these sellers, would just be their Amazon account balance, right? Or if they're on Walmart, their Walmart balance. Because if I were to go on Amazon and create my own store and start selling pens, if I sold 1,000 of these pens, I'm not getting that money the next day. Amazon's going to hold it for 2-3 weeks, and that's what we'll go ahead and freeze. And the defendants will not know they're being sued until one day they'll wake up and have a message from Amazon or whatever marketplace they're on and say, we've frozen your money. We can't release it. You can continue selling, but that one listing, we took that down. You could continue selling, but whatever you sell will go into this frozen account. So it puts a lot of pressure on these infringers to come and talk to us, right?
Got it.
That's where we apply the pressure.
I think that's brilliant.
Hey, Mario, can I ask a quick question?
Please, Kevin.
These marketplaces are in an unenviable position of having to determine what's infringing or what's not. How, I mean, do they follow what the U.S. courts do in general, or do you have to present an infringement opinion, or how does it work so that they know that, you know, these 5 products are probably infringing, but these 2 are not?
Sure, sure. So Amazon has no discretion there, or any other of the marketplaces. If a federal judge has ruled that, hey, these are infringing, or at least we want to freeze the assets, we'll decide if they're infringing or not, but at least freeze the assets. Amazon has never turned that down, or any marketplace.
Okay, I see.
Has never turned that down, and it's not really their discretion. They don't even get an option to decide whether it's infringing or not.
But absent a lawsuit and a federal court order, then they do have to weigh in on that in some way, I would imagine.
So different things here. We're not suing Amazon, right? Amazon's just a marketplace. We don't sue Amazon, and that's for strategic reasons, right? We don't sue Amazon. We're suing the third-party sellers that are on the marketplace. So Amazon is not a named defendant. All the judge is doing is issuing that temporary restraining order, or TRO, and saying, Amazon, here's a list of the defendants. Can you please freeze their money?
Got it.
All right. So
Okay. All right.
process. One of the last points I want to make is there's some products that will be a good candidate for this process, and some that won't. If you've got something simple like this, great fit for a service like ours. But if you've got something complicated that's got electrical components to it, or something super complicated with mechanical patents, not a good fit for this, right?
Okay.
Okay.
Easy to understand. Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you, Mario. Hey, Daniel, do you have a slide? Excuse me, I think you had a slide you wanted to show too.
Yeah, I was just gonna share really quickly.
Thank you, Mario, for that. That was very helpful.
And I'll see if I can figure out where I
Mario, it's nice to know the little guy has some options.
Absolutely. Yeah. And
Yeah.
like I mentioned, if people came to us 3 years ago, 4 years ago, we would say, do you have $500,000 to go? There's still no guarantee that we would win, or we would be able to collect anything. So this is definitely a game changer.
Yeah, I was just going to share with you just that our company is headquartered in Barcelona, Spain. So I just want to share, I get to go there several times a year to work. I know it made you think I'm playing in Barcelona, although it is a beautiful city to play in. But we have an office in Barcelona. We have an office in New York. We have an office in Salt Lake City, Utah, where I am. And we have an office in Beijing, China. This is sort of just a quick snapshot of the company. I just want to share with you, this is a large, and this is authorized for me to share with you, but Puma has been in business a long time. They came to us sort of tired and exhausted of fighting the fight. They've been with us now for, I think, 3 years, and we've taken down about 760,000 listings for them, with about a 93.5% success rate. And when we talk about the value, so if we find a Puma shoe that sells for 100, but it's being counterfeited for 50, we sort of do our calculation at the 50. We don't calculate it that if it sold at full price. We calculate it at the price we found it on the site. But these 760,000 listings represent about $580 billion worth of product taken out. So some people have significant challenges, and even though they're a significant company, different from most of our people on the phone today, the challenge is identical. It's tough. It takes tenacity, and you have to sort of solve it. This was sort of the company I was thinking of when we were talking earlier. It's called Sprout World, and it's actually quite interesting. I don't know if you could see my cursor here, but this is a pencil in a pot. The guy makes wood pencils. At the end of the wood pencils are seeds, and you stick the pencil in a pot so that it's sustainable, and the thing biodegrades and grows. You could get the pencils in basil, in all sorts of herbs, and so you can write with the pencil to a point, and then you put it in the pot, and you grow basil or whatever. Anyway, pretty cool item out of Europe. Again, if this was online and no one knew the brand, we wouldn't know that it was counterfeit. We wouldn't know it belonged to someone. But this gentleman hired us, I think it was a year and a half ago. And we've taken down about 7,000 of his, pencil seed products. We've also done it across a lot of standalone websites. So we've covered about 690 domains of places where we found this. He was one of those guys, by the way, who invented something, saw that he could do business everywhere because a sustainable item was very important. And he began filing his trademarks globally. And interestingly, because I wouldn't have expected when he hired us that he would have such a small company, that he would have had trademarks registered in all these geographic locations, but he actually had problems in most every geographic location. And those 7,000 listings represented about 2,000 sellers as it relates. So I share that with you because that Puma is sort of a large brand, one in which we know about. Sprout World, probably one that we've never heard of, but someone invented a cool little sustainable item, and the problem can be across the board. So that's what I wanted to share with you a little bit about what we do and how we think about trying to solve this for our customers.
So you've got a full range from small to medium to big companies. You know what's really interesting too? He had the foresight to trademark that name.
Yeah, that's another crazy thing, right? The name, the product. He really did some nice work from an IP. I don't know who his lawyer was, but he was really advised well.
Wow. Hey, we've gone over quite a bit of stuff. Thank you very much, everyone. I'm sure we have a couple questions. I'm sure we have more than a couple questions there.
There's plenty.
I
got
see,
a few here.
yeah, I see 99 comments in the chat.
Do you want me to take some, Stephen, or
Sure,
did you?
please.
Okay. We pretty much answered this, but if we could go into it. Question: does Amazon treat trademark infringement the same as patent infringement in terms of taking down infringers? So can we do a brief summary of what's the difference? And let's do copyright, trademark, design, utility, and just give like a brief summary with your opinion on each one, on what's realistic there and what do they respond to go. Okay, we're going to be going back on some stuff you already covered. Do you want to go first, Mario?
Sure, Andrew, and they're asking for Amazon specifically.
Yes.
Okay, so with Amazon, and if we're talking about copyrights, trademarks, and design patents, you could go ahead and file the complaint through Amazon's portal, right? If you just go ahead and Google file IP complaint on Amazon.com, it should be the first listing that comes up. So those three are easy. When it gets more complicated is when we're talking about utility patents. Amazon created their own little court system called Apex, Amazon Patent Evaluation Express program. It used to be called something a lot more weird than that. So this is actually the better version, the Apex. It's supposed to be the shorter version. But with Apex, what happens is we would go ahead, or the inventor, the utility patent holder, would go ahead and file the sort of form to join Apex and then list all the ASINs that are infringing. From there, Amazon contacts the owners of those ASINs or the sellers and says, hey, Brendan wants you to join Apex because they believe you're infringing on their utility patent. If you want to join, you've got 21 days and you need to deposit $4,000 by the 21st day to go ahead and join. If the other side decides to pay and join, pay the $4,000 deposit, then they would come to Brendan and say, Brendan, you also need to deposit $4,000. So then it's this ping pong of complaints that the patent holder will file, the other side responds, and then the patent holder has the option of responding to the other party's response. Okay, and at the end, the arbitrator or their neutral party decides. Now, Amazon, what they do with that $4,000 that each party pays is they'll go ahead and hire either a retired attorney, retired judge, or active attorney, but someone familiar with patents and someone that is neutral. Okay, so that person plays the judge during this process. Whoever wins, they get their money back. The $4,000 they get back. Whoever loses, Amazon keeps that money and gives it to that arbitrator or that neutral arbitrator. And then if the infringer loses, their listing gets taken down. That's the Apex process. Inside Amazon, I know that there's been talks about potentially getting design patents to also go through the Apex program, but they've been talking about that for the last year or so, and we still haven't seen that happen. But that's the different reporting mechanisms between utility patents and trademarks, copyrights, and design patents.
May I add just one sort of nuance to that statement. So when a seller decides to sell on Amazon, and by the way, I think as an inventor, it makes really good sense to sell on Amazon. But when you do upload your pictures, while you may not be aware of it, you actually click a button that basically forgoes your rights of copyright because you put those pictures for public view. So now when someone starts to sell on your ASIN, you can't claim copyright on that other seller or the other sellers on your ASIN. And when it comes to infringements, that is counterfeits, you have to be surgical. That is, you have to have a way in which to remove a particular seller and identify him as a counterfeiter on your particular ASIN. We have some Amazon, some new customers that go after, I don't know, brand name misuse or a copyright. And when they do that, they take down their own ASIN because that picture is in front of everything. So we have to be a little bit thoughtful once you decide to upload. And by the way, Walmart uses that same technique, which is when you upload your photos, you forego the right to use copyright. eBay, you can upload your photos and sell on eBay. Someone else has a listing that's using your photo without your authority. You can take that photo down without, selling that or listing your photo without your express written consent.
Daniel, let me just add some color to that. So what Daniel's talking about is the BSA, the Business Solutions Agreement, which is like the master agreement that every seller, whether you realize it or not, you click and agree to it, right? And part of that is whatever image you upload, Amazon gets the non-exclusive right to use it. Now, we've never had it. The understanding of that, the sort of policy reason behind that is if I'm creating a listing and I have this image on my listing, Amazon can use that. Amazon can use that to maybe advertise, send emails about it, and so forth. If other people come onto my listing, right, in the Amazon world, they call it hijackers, I can't file a complaint and say, Amazon, what the hell is going on, right? But however, those people, Amazon can't take my image, or not Amazon, but any other party can't take my image that I uploaded to my ASIN that I created and go create other listings. That's not allowed, right? But we give Amazon the non-exclusive right. And Daniel's right. You need to be very careful when you're filing a IP complaint and make sure you don't take down your own ASIN. But if you're filing it against other hijackers, you need to identify that it's the offers, the other sellers that you want to get taken down and not yourself or your listing. Okay.
Well, and thank you, guys, for addressing Apex, because Kevin had a question on that, so you addressed his question as well. So thank you. Stephen.
Yeah, a lot of people are asking about cost, of course. Daniel, let's start with you for a minute, because I think I understand your business model a little bit, but correct me if I'm wrong. You'll look at a situation someone has, and you'll look at what needs to be done, and there's really kind of a monthly fee that you do X amount, but sometimes that continues because you're always policing it. So you're kind of like you have this guard. I'm going to say the red points is like your guard protecting you weekly, monthly for as long as you need it. Is that correct? And there's a fee associated with that?
Yes, that's correct. So we consider ourselves like a SaaS company, which is software as a solution. And so we charge, and we generally do a 12-month contract. It is paid monthly by, some people pay up front, but I would say 95% pay monthly. But to your point, we take a look at the amount of trademarks we'll be solving for, and we take a look at what region or geographical areas you want us to solve for. Is it just Amazon, or is it domestically just 10 marketplaces in the US? Is it social media? Is it standalone websites? And different people have different problems. Not everybody is the same. And so we tailor our price based on the request of the customer. And then when the customer requests that, we do a little bit of check just to see if they do have exposure in other geographical regions. And if they're right, which most of the time the brand is right, they don't have an exposure issue there, then we can make a price that makes sense for this region. And then unlimited detection, enforcement, we take care of all that. Only thing we need someone to do is help us when they start, help us understand what's authentic and what isn't. and then we go after it. I think Stephen froze.
I mean, it's really simple. If I'm selling online, I need to determine how much money I'm losing. Am I froze?
Yeah, but we
Yeah.
can hear you, Stephen. Go ahead.
Okay, great. So
You're back.
really, if I'm selling online, I can pretty much figure out how much money I'm losing, look at what you guys offer and figure, hey, I need you or I don't.
Most people have no idea how big the problem is. Like I mentioned, that teething toy. If
Good
you had
point.
asked him, did he have 7,000 listings that are out there on these marketplaces, he'd have never known it was that big. I didn't know it was that big until we got into it. But most people don't really know
Good
how
point.
big it is until you get there, right? I mean, you have to
Okay.
sort of drill down a little bit and see what the challenge
All
is.
right.
And we use a lot of imagery to help us drill down.
It's probably much bigger than people even know, given the numbers you gave us. Okay, Mario, you do something a little bit different too.
Yeah,
You'll
so
you'll take something on a contingency if it's really the right fit for you to go after, correct?
yeah, so we'll know early on whether it's a good fit and whether we want to take that case, but we don't have the clients pay anything. I think that was one of the other questions, like how does Brendan pay me? So whatever amount we collect, let's say it's $100,000 from the infringers, we'll go ahead and split that amongst us and the client. So that's how we work. So we'll take on
Okay.
all the risk. We'll take care of all the expenses, whether it's ordering test samples for products or paying for court fees and things like that. We'll
Got
take
it.
care of that, and then we'll take a percentage of it. So
Perfect.
0 out of the
So
top.
in every situation, you really need to look at it very carefully and determine what's the best method for everyone.
Absolutely.
What other questions we have there, Andrew? These are good questions.
I'm going to do kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of questions. So let's say you're an inventor that has a simple product like Brendan, and they want to sell on Amazon. What would you do in the way of protection? What would you do from the get-go? And for Daniel and for Mario and Brendan, if you want to jump into, what would you do if you had to do it again from the beginning? And that's kind of an amalgamation of a bunch of different questions that people asked you. Brendan, why don't you go first? What would
Okay.
you do if you had to do it all over again? Had a simple product like you did. What would you do from the get-go?
Okay, so the first thing I would do was definitely file the patent as soon as possible. But the way I did my first patent, I claimed the whole entire design, and I kind of learned that that may not be best. It might be better to claim the part that's functional that you don't want people to copy, because people were able to get around, the lawsuits sometimes because they changed one particular thing on their copycat design. And so sometimes it's better to claim less than the entire thing. And I think that's probably, what I'm going to do moving forward if I can.
Okay. Mario, what would you do? What would you advise a new inventor with a simple product? What should they do from the get-go before they get on Amazon?
This is assuming they already have the patent.
No, what would they, no, what would they,
Oh.
would they get a patent, a design patent, a
Yeah.
copyright, a trademark? What's the mindset? How should they set things up? The whole deal.
I would say definitely first look at the patent and see if you could get a patent. From there, again, patent, trademark, right? Not every product you could get a patent on. So that's where you would talk to someone like Kevin. So talk to Kevin, see if you can get a patent, but trademark you could always get on your brand name or sort of slogan, logo. Do that before you jump on Amazon. That's what I would say, first steps.
Copyright, we didn't really get into that a lot. I mean, things are automatically copyrighted when you just do it. When you do a speech, it's automatic, but you can file it with the Library of Congress as well for a few bucks. Do you suggest people do that, or do they just put the little C with the circle around it?
So
Yeah,
what you're
be
talking about is
registered.
common law, yeah, or common law rights. So
Right.
trademarks and copyrights both come with common law rights. I wouldn't suggest you rely on that. But as far as getting a copyright, my strategy is focus on the patents, whether it's utility or design, whether you can get it and get a trademark. Copyrights we could do later on too. Copyrights, I'm not really big fan of, and we use it very, very strategically. So if we need to get a copyright later on your product images or things like that, we could do, or your packaging, we could do. But at a minimum, do those trademark and patent.
Okay. Daniel, what would you do? What would you do if advise an inventor from the get-go?
I always yield to the lawyers. I'm not a lawyer. I've been doing this for about 15 years, but I'm not a lawyer. But I do think that the trademark is, first and foremost, along with the design patent, if it's designable, are really critical. We've had some people who have built an item and they didn't get the trademark finally approved, and then someone else challenged the trademark. Now they got to redo their first run of product. So it's expensive, obviously, to be an entrepreneur. And so making sure before you build your first item and stamp it, I'd make sure you could get that trademark cleared so that your production is solid.
Before we end, we're coming up on the hour and a half. Kevin, put your telephone number and everything down in the chat so people can see that. Of course, Mario, if you've got any information you want people to see in the chat, please put that as well. And Daniel,
I'll put my personal email, or
they could probably find you too. But if you have anything that might make it easier for people, if they need you, if you could please put that in the chat, that'd be helpful. Andrew, we need to take a group picture, and I want to thank everybody. This has been great information. I think, you guys, it's just the reality of life today. And I think what's really amazing is the opportunity to sell around the world too. Come on, let's talk about that, the opportunity here. It's amazing, but you have to take some precautions and you have to think far in advance. And you've got to have some really good people that can help you. And I think there's a great group here that can pretty much protect you with all the things you're going to need. So just plan ahead, but plan ahead that you're going to have a big hit on your hands. And if you are, make sure you're out ahead of it. So when it does happen, you can go get them. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hey guys, let's take a group picture. So you either give a thumbs up or a wave and a smile. we gotta do this for a little bit. So go ahead, give a thumbs up or wave, and then I gotta do each page here. So there we go. Keep it going, keep it going. Capture full screen. Okay, now we're gonna do the third page out of 6. We still got some people on video. There we go. And the other pages we don't have people on video. So okay, I got it, Stephen.
Okay.
Good deal.
All right, let's wrap up. I want to thank everybody for attending today. I think this was really helpful. I think it's something that we need to keep in mind. This recording will be up on IG8. It will be up on inventRightTV. So if you want to watch it again, which you probably do, you'll be able to find it there as well. I highly recommend Red Points. I've known these guys for a long time. I've spoken to a lot of people that they've helped. They love their product or service. You guys, like you said, if you wait 3 or 4 days, how many other people are out there possibly getting ahead of you on the line? Or that number scaring me there, Daniel. Mario, thank you for doing such a great job. Great story. Using Kevin also, I'm a big fan of yours. Your stuff is fantastic. I highly recommend Kevin Prince, you guys, if you need him. The guy is spectacular. He does all my work as well. Mario, wonderful. Thank you for stopping those fakes for Brandon there, because I'll tell you, when I first heard that story, I was like, yeah, we got him. We fought back. We got those guys down. I was really happy to hear it. And it seemed like everybody was happy to hear it as well. Of course. So thank you, everybody, for coming.
Yeah, Andrew, Stephen, thank you for this opportunity and for having this community where we could come together and actually share stories like this. So as you guys said, the small guy knows that there's options out there.
Absolutely. I think people will be watching this replay for a long time to come. And I think knowing that the little guy has options is incredibly empowering. I think if that's one thing you guys all leave with, it's that. So I'll remind everybody to take care and keep inventing, and we'll catch up with you guys next time. And thank you, Madeline, for organizing all this. Thank you, Madeline. I want to give a wave, Madeline. Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thanks,
Bye.
everyone.
Bye.